Hello, welcome to Exposed News Outlet, where we shed light on topics that matter most. I'm your host, Andrea. Today, we're exploring the peaceful protests that have been growing daily as more constitutional rights and liberties, as well as freedom, is stripped away or abused and ignored. And this last No King's Day event demonstrated in more than 2,100 cities across the United States, with more than 5 million protesters turned out. I would even suggest much more than that. As we navigate the complexities of our world, it's essential to stay informed and engaged. By subscribing to our channel, enabling notifications, and sharing our content, you're supporting our mission to provide thought-provoking insights and inspire positive change. Thank you for being part of our community. For those interested, I will leave my GoFundMe link as I am growing my resources and technology. Also, my social media links are in my bio as well, in the description box below. And without further ado, let's get to the video. The LA protests were sparked by federal immigration agents, arrests and deportations of undocumented aliens, and literally disappearing people off the streets, which led to widespread demonstrations. Donald Trump deployed National Guard as well as Marines to quell the protests that he literally instigated, citing violent protests. I mean, this was, the plan all along. They do unconscionable things, instigate, and then it's abuse of power. So, citing that they're violent protests that threaten federal property and personnel. However, California Governor Gavin Newsom argued that the state law enforcement could control the protests and were quite capable of doing it themselves, and that bringing in the military would only escalate the situation. The sad part is this happened just days after Trump's bad breakup with Elon Musk, where Elon called out the big ugly bill and said that Trump's national sales tax tariffs are terrible policies which will lead to a recession by the end of the year. He went on to say that Trump was indeed in the Epstein files, which most of us have already, we've already known this and called him out long ago, but people wanted to pretend like it was a lie. But it seemed like the perfect time for the fascist regime to push evil white nationalist assaults on democracy and freedom. Watch this clip.
Tensions have sharply escalated between California and the Trump administration after the president ordered the deployment of the National Guard to respond to immigration-related protests in Los Angeles. California Governor Gavin Newsom announced on June 9th that the state would sue U.S. President Trump, accusing him of acting illegally by bypassing state authority in deploying troops. The lawsuit follows Trump's memorandum, which called for 2,000 National Guard personnel to be sent into federal service for 60 days, citing numerous incidents of violence and disorder. Although the order did not mention California or Los Angeles specifically, the deployment was widely viewed as a direct response to protests that had erupted across Los Angeles in opposition to surprise immigration raids conducted by ICE. Governor Newsom, along with Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass, and other California officials condemned the move as an unnecessary escalation and accused the president of inflaming an already volatile situation. In a post on social media, Newsom said that Trump had flamed the fires and warned that the order set a dangerous precedent by giving the president the power to override governors in any state. LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell addressed the public in a press conference, urging calm and stating that law enforcement's primary goal is to protect peaceful demonstrators and maintain public safety. The political fallout deepened over the weekend when border czar Tom Homan hinted at possible legal action against Democratic officials who interfere with federal law enforcement. In a televised interview, Homan said he did not believe Mayor Bass had crossed the line yet, but emphasized that no one is above the law. Governor Newsom responded defiantly, writing on social media, "Come and get me, tough guy," in reference to Homan's comments. Meanwhile, President Trump, in a fiery response on Truth Social, defended his decision, saying the National Guard's deployment was the only reason Los Angeles hadn't been, in his words, completely obliterated. He mocked both Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass, saying they should be thanking him instead of misleading the public with what he described as false claims that the protests were peaceful. Trump insisted the Guard's presence had restored order and vowed that his administration would continue doing whatever is necessary to protect American citizens.
Are they people ISIS trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
They were going into homes. They were going into places of work. Would you not be angry?
Infuriated, the LAPD moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA. Oh! You just shut the f*** up!
You okay?
I'm good.
Yeah, Lauren, these are incredible scenes that we're seeing at the moment. It has now entered the evening there. I know you and your cameraman yourselves, you got caught up in some of the crossfire earlier. Do you get a sense that it is becoming more heated as the day goes on?
It definitely feels that way. And, you know, we can see vehicles on fire. There have been at least 3 cars that have been set alight by protesters. This is now day 3, and certainly the evenings have been getting a little more out of hand. But what we have been seeing in the past 90 minutes or so is by far and away the most significant escalation here on the ground. I'm going to stay here a little bit further away from these police because they have been firing a lot of tear gas. It has been so heavy in the air, but even so, it just doesn't seem to be deterring these protesters. That's one of those flashbang grenades. They're being let off in an effort to try and deter these protesters, but I keep seeing fireworks in the distance as well. Protesters are lobbing things back at these officers. It really is kind of a mix of the LAPD, these riot police, and then, of course, we've seen those soldiers on the ground here in Los Angeles. The National Guard, there are at least 300 deployed by the Donald Trump administration. The US president ordering in those National Guardsmen and putting them under federal service.
And while some outlets have covered it as reporter caught in the crossfire, anyone, with a set of eyes that aren't looking through orange-tinted glasses could see that's not exactly the case. A clear example of unprovoked aggression, which, we've seen across the board. In a strong statement, Greens Senator Sarah Hanson-Young called on Mr. Albanese, the Aussie Prime Minister, to hold the US President accountable, saying, quote, US authorities shooting an Australian journalist is simply shocking. Before going on to add, freedom of the press is a fundamental pillar of a strong functioning democracy. Yeah, a message that should be on the front page of every major outlet across the United States, especially with our fearless leader waging a war on the First Amendment, hell-bent on collapsing that very pillar.
To come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I was Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget. What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators? The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
This comes as he ordered 2,000 troops to Los Angeles, proving that, yeah, he has the power and ability to do that when he wants to, that being when a protest is against him.
It's amazing that President Trump is so quick to call in the National Guard when he held off calling in the National Guard as armed people were assaulting the Capitol to try to overthrow a democratic election. Just bring it back to January 6th and think about how Trump was unwilling to bring in the troops then. He never called in active duty troops. I had a friend of mine from the Marines with the FBI literally sitting on a Black Hawk waiting to come up, and the president wouldn't let him go to save the lives of cops, to save the lives of his own vice president and other elected officials who these protesters, who these insurrectionists were trying to hang. So it's kind of amazing that Trump wants to do this in LA. And it's pretty obvious because he's always dreamed of politicizing the military and using it against what he sees as the left in America.
It can also be true that everything that's happened in the last 7 days between the fight with Elon Musk and now the deployment of the National Guard is probably also a distraction from the main story, which is that right now Donald Trump is trying to pass probably the most unpopular piece of legislation that he will attempt to move through Congress in his first term. He's going to throw 15 million people off their health care in order to fund a massive tax cut for the wealthy. It's going to add $2 trillion to our deficit. We're probably going to head into a recession. And so I do also think he's probably doing everything he can to try to get the entire political world to be talking about anything other than a piece of legislation that's going to fundamentally change this country. So, yeah, we have to point out the danger of what he's proposing to do in Los Angeles while also keeping our eye on the ball, which is a bill that's going to transform our economy and ruin a lot of lives.
Echoing the condemnation from Australian leaders was Gavin Newsom, who had this to say on the situation.
We talked about this is in some measure about immigration, in some measure it's about democracy. Do you believe, some people have said, that this is an attempt at distraction from maybe the matters with Elon Musk back in Washington? You know, why did this happen now, in other words?
Well, he's a master of distraction. He's the commander of chaos. That's what Donald Trump does. Moves this direction, move that direction. I mean, look, this guy is 90 days, 90 beautiful deals. How many deals? Zero. In the UK, give me a break. I mean, Elon Musk is the sycophant of sycophants as it relates to this love relationship that he had with the president of the United States said it exactly right. We're likely in a recession the second half of the year because of the recklessness of this tariff policy under this administration. He's just saddled our kids and grandkids with $2.5 trillion of debt to give billionaires and corporations a tax break that they're not even asking for. Of course, he's trying to distract us.
He has come out demanding that Donald Trump withdraw the National Guard, accusing the president of, quote, inciting more violence.
On Sunday, the protests had mostly dissipated and streets were mostly quiet and calm. Since Trump announced his plan to deploy troops, the situation on the ground has escalated quickly, with unrest growing overnight, causing highways to close and putting people in danger. This wasn't the case on Saturday or Sunday morning. This was not inevitable. We'll never know what might have been had the president left our state and local authorities to continue the important work they were already doing and were more than capable of doing. What we do know is that what we saw yesterday happened after the president's unnecessary, counterproductive, and most importantly, unlawful order.
Which, judging by this video, appears to be the case.
About is that, Donald Trump only cares about protests when they're opposing him. I mean, every single day we should be reminding the American public that there were protesters at the Capitol fighting for Donald Trump to install him in power permanently on January 6th of 2021, who beat the hell out of police officers with metal poles and tasers and are out on the street today. So Donald Trump only cares about quelling violent protest or quelling protest at large when it's protests against him. That's fundamentally undemocratic. And it's frankly an invitation for more violence on the streets. The message is simply, if you're violent in service of a Republican cause, you'll get a get out of jail free card. But if you're engaged in protest against the administration, well, then we're sending in the National Guard.
What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid who's afraid of you and run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did. The governor was not contacted. This is Trump and his outrageous attempt to not only target our sanctuary city, but to frighten us and intimidate us. This is wrong, and I hope that none of you will use those guns to shoot anybody. There's no reason to shoot anybody. Don't allow them to make your service in a service where you're killing people. Don't do it. Defy them. Don't shoot those guns for anything. Thank you.
What do you think about the protests that happened? Do you believe that they had this American response?
Are you going to shoot a protester because you don't like what they're saying? Why the guns? Why are these guns here? That's my question. I don't get why the guns have to be here. We're a sanctuary city. We know Trump doesn't like us. We know that he's going to try to use us as an example. He's going to try to goad us so that he has a martial law. He even alluded to civil war at one point in talking about this issue.
And Hegseth.
I want that back. That he ordered to shoot. Tell me, let's say yes or no. Are you ordered to shoot? We have a bunch of crazy, unreliable leadership in this country now. The president is in charge. He's in charge of all of the independent agencies. He's got the MAGA crowd around him, and they are saying some of the most outrageous and ridiculous things and trying to frighten and intimidate. And so I'm not surprised at what they're saying. They're crazy. They're outrageous. And the people of America got to know what's happening. Example out of us. No, I'm not surprised.
In a dysfunctional way to criminalize people.
This is not just about deportation. This is about how they're going to treat people of color in America, and this is how he's going to get to have martial law because he wants to goad us into a fight. They have all the guns. We know they have all the guns. We got to let people know that we have a right to speak up. We're supposedly in a democracy and have a voice, but we've got to heighten that voice. We've got to improve that voice. We've got to get more people involved, and perhaps we can push back. Is someone that's in charge that can, an elected official has a right to go to check out what's going on. Who can I speak to? You know, anybody? No?
L'économie de ce pays, qui rappelle très souvent.
We have been tear gassed. We have been flashballed.
let's go see the fake news and enjoy ourselves. Get a couple of nice questions. How are you? Who would like to ask a question?
Mr. President, on California, are you prepared to invoke the Insurrection Act?
Depends on whether or not there's an insurrection.
There is, sir?
No, but you have violent people, and we're not going to let them get away with it.
Even if you don't plan to invoke the Insurrection Act, do you plan to send troops to Los Angeles?
What?
Even if you're not planning to invoke the Insurrection Act, you still plan to send troops?
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Sending active duty Marines on the table, sir. Secretary Hexum.
We're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Mr. President, do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago, New York, for example, in the next few days?
Yes, we're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military.
Series of California officials could face federal charges if they stand in the way of the deportation. Something that Nolan may have suggested.
If they stand in the way of law and order, yeah, they will face charges. Thank you very much.
Right.
Key issues. Federalization of National Guard. Trump federalized California's National Guard without Governor Newsom's consent, which, by the way, is illegal. And the federal judge ruled that it was illegal as well and violated the 10th Amendment. The judge ordered the Guard's control to be returned to Newsom.
He is not a monarch, he is not a king, and he should stop acting like one. It's a federal judge with a federal order. Period, full stop. It's the rule of law. These are the foundational principles of a constitutional democracy. He must work under the constraints as a constitutional officer of the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what this court order demands of the President of the United States. He is not a monarch, he is not a king, and he should stop acting like one.
However, it was then appealed immediately after, and of course it's a shit show. So, militarization of streets. Trump's deployment of federal troops and National Guard was seen as an overreaction by state officials who argued that it would inflame tensions and put people at risk. Constitutional concerns. The 10th Amendment reserves powers not delegated to the federal government to the states. Trump's actions were seen as exceeding his authority and violating the Constitution. Court ruling. A federal judge, Charles Breyer, ruled that Trump's actions were illegal and set a dangerous precedent. He emphasized that the president's power to deploy troops is limited and that Trump's actions did not meet the required criteria. The judge's order was temporarily stayed by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. Watch these clips.
Judicial whiplash overnight. A California appeals court siding with President Trump in his battle with California over the National Guard.
The decision comes just hours after a lower court ruled the president had overstepped his authority. NBC's Chris Pallone joins us live from Washington with the very latest. Good morning, Chris.
Danita, Dave, good morning to you. For a few hours, California Governor Gavin Newsom thought he had won a decisive victory over the Trump administration, but that victory was certainly short-lived, and this morning troops remain on the streets of L.A. for now. As anti-ICE protests spread from California to cities across the country, a federal appeals court says President Trump can continue to direct National Guard troops he sent to Los Angeles to help quell violent demonstrations. The reversal just hours after a lower court gave California Governor Gavin Newsom a sweeping but short-lived victory.
Today is a big day for the Constitution of the United States, for our democracy.
While migrant roundups continue, the president acknowledging his crackdown is impacting businesses and appears to be considering a policy change.
We can't do that to our farmers and leisure too, hotels.
The passionate debate over immigration reaching from the streets
I have questions for the secretary
to the highest levels of government. California Senator Alex Padilla forced from the room and briefly handcuffed after interrupting Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem during a news conference.
I began to ask a question. I was almost immediately forcibly removed from the room. I was not arrested. I was not detained.
Padilla's Democratic colleagues outraged.
That sickened my stomach. The manhandling of a United States senator. We need immediate answers to what the hell went on.
Secretary Noem insisting it was a case of mistaken identity.
We sat down for 10 to 15 minutes and talked about the fact that nobody knew who he was.
Meanwhile, final preparations are underway for the nation's first military parade in more than 30 years Saturday. The forecast in Washington not looking good.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the tanks at all. It doesn't affect the soldiers. They're used to it. They're tough. Smart.
The parade celebrates the Army's 250th anniversary. And several groups are organizing protests across the country against the Trump administration tomorrow, which also happens to be President Trump's 79th birthday.
How you feel?
Man, these motherfuckers, that's how I feel. They came back, they did this shit 5 years ago up in this neighborhood. Now they're back. Look what you're doing to the people. Look what you're doing to the people.
We weren't here for an hour or 2 hours.
It doesn't matter.
You can't assault.
Sheriff and everyone else can provide their own support. MPD does not align with HSI. MPD should not be present.
This is not what you promised. They don't answer to me. MPD doesn't work with us so hard. They don't answer to me. I'm just trying to get them. You are not working with us. Stop this. This world's law. You're not listening.
Reactions. Governor Newsom criticized Trump's actions, saying democracy is under assault and that the deployment of federal troops was an illegal waste of resources. LA Mayor Karen Bass declared a curfew for parts of downtown LA due to prior violence and looting, but emphasized that most of the protesters were peaceful. Kristi Noem Secretary of Homeland Security has been accused of spreading disinformation and propaganda through taxpayer-funded videos. Here's what's known: propaganda videos. Noem has been producing videos warning illegal immigrants to leave the U.S. or face deportation. These videos are part of a multi-million-dollar ad campaign aimed at deterring illegal immigration. Yeah, right. Controversial video in El Salvador. Soon after, they started sending people to El Salvador and wanted us to believe that they couldn't retrieve anybody that was wrongfully disappeared. Noem filmed a video inside El Salvador's terrorism confinement center, CCOT, showcasing imprisoned men and warning potential immigrants about the consequences of entering the U.S. illegally. The video is criticized for using prisoners as props and promoting a fascist agenda. Incident with Senator Padilla. Senator Padilla was meeting in the federal building for a briefing from Homeland Security when he learned that Secretary Noem was actually giving a conference or press conference, and he actually had to wait for it to get over before he could have his. So he asked if he could go down and observe this press conference. And so the FBI agent, Homeland Security agents, escorted him down and let him in. Well, soon after, he was in there for, a few minutes and held his tongue for quite a while. But then it was after many partisan attacks that are just based in no factual basis at all, pure propaganda. He stepped forward to ask her a question after she had said that she was going to liberate the city from its elected officials, which is just unconstitutional and alarming. He then stepped forward to ask her a question, and they acted like they didn't know who he was. I mean, for one, there's only 2 senators in the state of California. You would think that, and he is on the ranking member of oversight of Homeland Security, so she knew who he was. They wanted to play stupid, and I mean, it's all for the cameras and for stunts and shows, and it's ridiculous, and there's no place for that here. They ended up shoving him out of the room and to the ground and detained him and let him off, and they wouldn't tell him. It's a repeating thing what they do, and they escorted him to a room, and it's to make people fearful so they won't stand up, or to scare people. It's just wrong, and it's not going to deter these people either. So Noem's actions have sparked debate, with critics accusing her of fascist propaganda, using taxpayer money to produce videos that demonize certain groups and promote a hardline stance on immigration, disregard for human rights, ignoring human rights abuses in detention centers, and promoting policies that prioritize punishment over due process. Noem's defenders argue that she's taking a strong stance on immigration and national security. However, it's inhumane. Kristi Noem's interaction with Senator Padilla isn't publicly documented. In fact, when I went to look it up, there wasn't really a lot of information on it at all. It's almost like it was scrubbed from. And in fact, they even tried to hide the fact that Kristi Noem said she was going to liberate LA from their duly elected officials. But as Secretary of Homeland Security, it's indeed part of her job to be familiar with key lawmakers, including Senator Padilla, who serves on the Senate Committee on Rules and Administration and is a senior member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Noem has been in the spotlight for her role in the Trump administration and her past controversies, including her handling of a dog shooting incident and speculations about her plastic surgeries. Given her position, Noem would likely be expected to engage with lawmakers on policy matters, including those related to Homeland Security and immigration. Kristi Noem did talk to Padilla after the propaganda press conference, where she claimed that they were there with the National Guard and Marines backing to liberate Los Angeles from socialist and burdensome leadership. In a very bizarre press conference, multiple partisan attacks on local government, and specifically Democrats, Padilla stepped forward to ask cosplay Kristi a question and was immediately shoved out of the room, tackled to the ground, and then Kristi Noem wanted to rush to Fox News immediately after they had already talked, actually, and try to push yet more bullshit, saying some guy came at her aggressively and raised his voice and acted like she still had no idea who he was. Which, again, I have a hard time believing that she didn't know who he was to begin with. And I know for a fact that several of the people, probably the ones pushing him out of the room, knew who he was, because they were even calling him Senator. And he had identified himself as Senator Alex Padilla. So it's just, I mean, either way, it's alarming, whether she didn't know who he was or whether she did know who he was and treated him like that. So, and this was even after she already had sat down and met with him as well. She was still pushing, you know, propaganda on Fox News. So this is what they're doing, you know, trying to make it look like, oh my goodness, these Democrats are trying to protect these hardened criminals and all these drug lords and all the, but they're not going after those people. They're going after people that are legally seeking asylum or have legally, you know, obtained it, and they have them come into these hearings where they revoke their asylum or citizenship or whatever and, you know, snatch them up. It's just absolutely disgraceful. It's fascist, authoritarian, white nationalist assault on democracy, and it's sickening. All for a quota. Watch this clip.
I don't want to cry, but I want to say that that place, it's not good. It's not good. Nobody should be in here. Like, most people down there are all workers. They all got caught going to work, and like these people have families, man. Like, they have kids to go home to, and there's like genuine criminals out there that people aren't giving attention to. They're getting good people that don't deserve to be here. I was one of the translators in there because I speak English, Portuguese, and Spanish, and they would come in there with their papers, and they would say, can you translate this for me, because I don't want to sign something and get deported. And a lot of those papers, I would have to look back at them and be like you're being deported, like they're taking you out of the country. And I would have to watch people cry, like people with kids, like 10-month-old babies. It'd be really hard. I haven't showered in 6 days. I haven't done anything. The only thing I could do is thank God every day, because that's all I would do. I would pray there. I would talk about the Bible to them. Sometimes our lunch and dinner would be crackers, and I would share with the people there, because they're like all 35-year-old men who have kids, and obviously, you know, like they eat more than me, so I gave them food. I shared with them. I gave them whatever they needed. I told them about the Bible. For me to say the Pledge of Allegiance at my school every single day and not have a Bible in a federal agency place, it's horrible. It doesn't make sense to me, because, like, to me, I always choose God first, and that's all I did there. I would pray.
Stay back. No, not me, dude. Not fucking me. Come on, man. I'm the fucking press. I get you. You don't need to fucking aim it. Why even aiming that shit at me, man? I'm like not a fucking threat. Please de-escalate.
That is a stun grenade. Are you serious right now? Maybe you guys should just go ahead and record me, bro. This is me. This is my job. You're not going to intimidate me. We still have a First Amendment in this country. Shame on you fucking Nazi pigs. Fucking Nazis.
Hey, hello? Yeah, I can't go over there right now because the crowd is forming. But what can we do to stop this? Because this is insane. This is insane. You're getting ready to leave? Okay, please. Can you leave ASAP?
No, not me, dude. Not fucking me. Come on, man. I'm the fucking press. I get you. You don't need to fucking aim it. Why even aiming that shit at me, man? I'm like not a fucking threat. Please de-escalate.
That is a stun grenade. Are you serious right now? Maybe you guys should just go ahead and record me, bro. This is me. This is my job. You're not going to intimidate me. We still have a First Amendment in this country.
Jesus, what the fuck is happening? This is ICE walking down my street. There's got to be 50 of them? What the fuck is going on here? Holy shit. Jesus, what the fuck is happening? This is ICE walking down my street. There's got to be 50 of them? What the fuck is going on here?
Protests have continued to grow. Kristi Noem should resign. Trump and the whole administration and Republican leaders of the House and Senate should be impeached for violating their oath to protect the Constitution. There was just recently over 2,100 protests across 2,100 cities in the United States, so the opposition is growing. More than 5 million people came out to protest the lawlessness and evil inhumanity that has been unfolding, staining the timelines with chaos and dysfunction. Unfortunately, one person was shot and killed at the Salt Lake City protest from a fascist Nazi coward. And then the tragic events that unfolded the early hours of Sunday morning around 2 a.m. A mentally disturbed evangelical man hunted down lawmakers, killing the former Speaker of the House of Minnesota and her husband, and critically injuring State Senator Hoffman and his wife. We wish them a speedy recovery. I do have another video also on that, so watch for that as well. I'll try to link it. And even with these circumstances, the MAGA Republicans are choosing to escalate instead of de-escalating this already out of control, violent, fascist, they're literally, and then he has the audacity to claim that he wants peace, he's waging war on fellow Americans. There's nothing peaceful about any of these people. This is why Trump pardoned 1,600 nut jobs on his first day. There is no place for political violence, and many of you trying to defend it are mentally disturbed. What's most disturbing is that many of these Republicans are still defending the indefensible. Many of them have chosen to allow, tolerate, and support the most disturbing and inhumane policies and white nationalist assaults on diversity and democracy. Our grassroots movement is growing, and we must organize and support each other and fact check in real time. We must also like, follow, and share the videos and memes, articles, and facts, and be sure to call out the injustices and explain how the Democratic candidate will address the needs of the people rather than their billionaire donors. The Republicans sold their souls, and they sold us out too, or at least attempted. It's our job to take back our country and to ensure that everyone is treated as a human being. The light will always win. I want to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this journey. Your engagement and support mean everything to me. If you would like to support our mission further, please be sure to check out our upcoming merchandise with partial proceeds going to institutions like the NCAA and the ACLU and other defenders of democracy. Also, if you haven't already, if I could just ask for you to please like this video and subscribe if you haven't yet, and be sure to click the notification box for all so you get all the latest updates on all my new videos. It takes a village, so thank you again, and if you enjoyed this video, please share it on your social media platforms and help spread the word. Thank you once again for watching my video, and stay safe out there. And as always, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Thank you.